yeah, remember Red, that had that pond in it? Would they they filled it all in or what?
Had to.
Wow. That was all boggy and marsh. What'd they do? Fill that in?
A lot of it. Very small, pretty easy, they don't come with any dirt. Take the tree, stick it in that little hole, put it in about 3 inches back, close the hole, and then you do it again.
Sue, you want to pick a spot?
So you think this is a good idea?
Definitely a good idea. I didn't realize there was this much open space back here.
In southern Newcastle County, there's quite a bit of developing, and most of it is they're requiring more and more open space.
We were looking for alternatives because we kept paying so much for mowing, 14 acres of open space, and really not well-used space. Not many people come back here, there's not much to look at other than a big grass field.
There's literally thousands of acres every year that are being converted from forest land, from meadow, from agricultural fields into residential subdivisions. And the question is, as those subdivisions are built, and there's open space created as part of them, how does that open space get managed?
A lot of folks weren't quite sure what to do with the open space, and it's difficult to maintain. You don't want it just in grasses that have to be mowed, and one of the greatest things we've seen come along is a real focus on conservation design.
Land use assumes some design standard, and the community design standard that's been extant in the state of Delaware hasn't been guided by an understanding of the functions and values of open space. Future land use, as it increasingly understands that those functions and values have to be intrinsically part of the design of a community.
We started this about 2 years ago when we decided to take advantage of putting nature back in the habitat. So we planted 1,000 trees last year. We had the governor here, and then she planted some trees for us. And then this is phase 2, and then we'll have about 5 phases when it's all done.
So what kind of trees are these?
I have no idea.
Native trees, things that would normally be growing in Delaware that construction has taken out and wildlife needs, and we're putting them back in. Not only to make the land more valuable, but to bring more wildlife.
Whoops, missed the tree.
Yep.
We see it as a real opportunity to really balance 3 things: the biology or the ecology of the region, trying to actually give back habitat that was lost from the original development in the first place, and also the physics of the situation in terms of things like stormwater management. We all see flooding problems and runoff problems.
These trees are going to help with their ground eroding. They're going to soak up this water that's flooding through this area, instead of it tearing up the ground and wrecking the pond back there, the little creek.
If you have vegetated, diverse natural habitats, it's far superior to protecting our rivers and streams than, say, monoculture mowed grassy areas. And one of the things that happens is that these diverse natural vegetative areas they end up catching a lot of pollutants, trapping sediments, and filtering pollutants out of the water. And this protects the streams and the rivers.
Well, then put your fingers back in there. I teach watershed conservation, and it makes a lot of sense to put your money where your mouth is. Talk to the kids about going out and doing something good for the community, and don't do it yourself. This is a chance for me to impact what happens right here in Middletown. So that's why I'm here.
And the third thing is really the economics. When it comes to the cost of managing open space, again, there are major opportunities to reduce those costs and really have long-term savings for the residents of those communities.
For this 14 acres, we're going to save, in the first year, we're likely to save $3,000 to $4,000. What we're going to do is we're just going to maintain some nature and hiking trails through here, so the actual grass maintenance in this 14 acres will just be a couple passes every couple of weeks along the trails to keep the trails maintained. So we'll likely reduce our costs out here by as much as 90% over the long term.
I think it's going to work out well for us. It's definitely better than having to pay for having to maintain this area. It's about 10 acres, and the cost of mowing it is not being used for anything, so it's probably better.
It's not sufficient to have a mowing practice or a mowing policy or an annual budget for mowing and call it your open space management plan. We need to go back to our existing communities and find places where infill vegetative management can restore habitat functions and values. The acre and a half that's behind me didn't have to be reinvented or recreated. It was there. It was unimproved, if you will. It was part of a regular 20 mowings a year practice. And we displaced that 20 mowing a year practice with a low maintenance young successional forest. This practice behind me, afforestation or new forest restoration, can be retrofitted into a lot of communities.
First year we planted 625 trees. This year another 600, and I think next year we have 800 we're planting. But a lot of that might be grasses.
Well, what we're looking at here is about 15 acres of a former corn and soybean field that was converted into a native warm season grass meadow with a number of different wildflowers in it as well. And the reason we did that was really to provide an alternative to something other than lawn. We were looking at shifting away from agriculture, providing more habitat for wildlife, trying to promote recharge of groundwater, and this is really one of the best ways to manage land, to keep it from going back to forest, but having a much lower cost, lower maintenance system that also is aesthetically pleasing to look at, that looks like the rural landscape that we've lived in or inherited for generations, and also provides habitat for native plants and animals.
Whoops, the tree. Yep.
So you planted a lot of trees?
Yeah, do it anyway, but the state is helping us.
It's a multi-pronged approach, and what we're doing, what our job is to work directly with those communities and local governments by providing seed money, providing examples that other communities can come and look at and say, this worked for my community, this didn't work for my community, borrow some ideas from some other states, but Delawareize it. What is good for Delaware?
So it's going great, and so with the help of DNREC and the United States Department of Agriculture, we're just going to keep going until it's finally finished. And then phase 3 this fall, we're going to plant out front and along underneath the power lines and stuff like that, and put grasses and everything. So it's been a real work of art. It's a lot of fun.
There's only so much that government can do. It's got to be people who want to make these changes. It's got to come from property owners.
It's amazing to see this many trees being planted in such a short amount of time, and it's fun. I'm glad I came.
I think this is a good thing that a lot of communities could benefit from. So, and with grant support, it's a win-win.
Maybe we can come back in 10 or 20 years and see the trees grown.
Maybe driving past here one day, my granddaughter or grandson will be able to say, Grandma planted that. Feels good.